Coming up on this Tuesday edition of Daybreak, at least 5 people are dead and several more missing in flash floods after torrential rain slams Busan and most of southeastern Korea. No breakthrough in the parliamentary deadlock over a special bill on the Sewol-ho ferry sinking. Looking to turn the screws on the ruling party, the main opposition begins a sit-in protest at the National Assembly. Plus, Congo says more than a dozen people may have died from the Ebola virus, and officials say it could be of a different strain from the epidemic wreaking havoc through West Africa. Daybreak begins now. Hello and thanks for joining us. To our viewers around the world, it's 6 a.m. on Tuesday, August 26th here in Seoul. I'm Mark Broome and you're tuned in to Daybreak. Our top story this morning, at least 5 people have been killed and several others missing in torrential rains that lashed southeastern Korea on Monday. Officials say up to 130 millimeters of rain an hour fell in Busan and nearby regions in Gyeongsang-namdo province on Monday afternoon. This triggered landslides, flooded houses and cars, seriously disrupted air and rail services, and even temporarily halted the operation of a nuclear power plant after rain began to seep into a water intake facility. 3 women and a teenage girl were killed by sudden floodwaters in Busan. In the city of Changwon, a bus tipped over into a flooded street, as you can see there. 1 person was killed, while at least 4 others remain missing from that incident. Officials say more than 270 millimeters of rain fell in Changwon as of Monday afternoon. The Korea Meteorological Administration says more heavy rain is forecast for later this week. Now, in other news, the political deadlock persists over a special bill to probe April's ferry sinking that killed more than 300 people. The ruling party has repeatedly rejected the opposition's proposal to give the bereaved families more of a say in the negotiations. The hold-up has completely thrown the schedule for parliamentary operations off track, as our Chae-sun reports.
After the ruling party quickly rejected her proposal to invite the victims' families to negotiate the so-called Sewol-ho ferry bill, opposition floor leader Park Young-sun has given an ultimatum to the ruling party to agree to the 3-way talks by Monday.
The tripartite consultation, including the family representatives, would garner the families' consent and public sympathy. We will fight so long as the ruling party rejects the 3-way talks.
The ruling side did not budge.
We need to think about what precedent would be set having the stakeholders participate in negotiations under a representative democracy.
The ferry victims' families are demanding that a probe committee, which includes lawyers and legal experts selected by the families themselves, have the authority to investigate and indict. The ruling party says that would destroy the principle of criminal law. And so the Saenuri Party floor leaders meeting with the victims' families bore no fruit on Monday, with the 2 sides only confirming their differences. The months-long political discord has left Parliament in paralysis, with a lineup of major economy and reform-related bills kept in limbo. Ruling party leader Kim Moo-sung on Monday urged the opposition to work towards swift passage of the economic bills that are closely linked to the people's livelihoods. If the rival parties fail to break the impasse by Monday, it will not only further dampen President Park's economic and reform drive, but start a domino effect of delaying the parliament's government audit and budget planning for next year. Choi Yu-sun, Arirang News.
Staying with that story, and in protest of stepping up its protest of the ruling party's rejection of its proposal for trilateral dialogue with the family members to renegotiate that special ferry bill, members of the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy are holding a sit-in protest at the National Assembly. Along with the protest, opposition party floor leader Park Young-sun says she will read out a letter of support for the bereaved families at the National Assembly later on this Tuesday morning. Park vowed on Monday that her party was ready to shift to a hardcore fight against the ruling party if no compromise was met within the day. Now, in other news, South Korea and the United States are reviewing the feasibility of holding a joint foreign and defense minister meeting in Washington in late October, following an agreement reached during summit talks between the two nations in April. Officials say that, should the meeting go ahead, both countries will discuss the timing of the transfer of wartime operational control from Washington to Seoul, as well as their combined operation capability against North Korea. Although the envisioned meeting would be around the time of the scheduled security consultative meeting in October, it will highly depend on the ministers' schedules, of course. If the meeting does happen, it will mark only the third meeting of its type between the two countries. The North Korea issue will take centre stage at a meeting between US President Barack Obama and Chinese President Xi Jinping at an upcoming summit of Asia-Pacific leaders. This is according to Robert Wang, who is a senior diplomat at the US Embassy in Beijing. He told China's Global Times that the two leaders will discuss the North's nuclear weapons program and other issues regarding the Korean Peninsula at a bilateral meeting on the sidelines of the APEC summit in Beijing in November. Russia's foreign minister has dismissed speculation that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is planning to travel to Russia soon for talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Sergei Lavrov said on Monday that the reports out of South Korea were categorically not true. Earlier, a media outlet in Seoul reported that Kim was planning to go to Russia in late August or early September in a trip aimed at countering Chinese President Xi Jinping's visit to Seoul last month. Now, staying with diplomatic news, and Korea's new ambassador to Japan says the Japanese government must apologize for its historical wrongdoings before any summit talks between President Park and Prime Minister Abe can take place. To smooth the way a little, Woo Hyung-soo has vowed to do what he can to improve the really rather frosty ties. Our Kim Min-ji has this report.
Korea's new ambassador to Japan says Seoul and Tokyo need summit talks, but only after Japan shows sincerity about its historical wrongdoings, including the sexual enslavement of Korean women. Speaking to reporters after his inauguration ceremony on Monday, Woo Hyung-soo, a four-term lawmaker, said talks need to take place in order to improve bilateral ties, a sentiment he believes is also shared by President Park Geun-hye. However, he added that before they are held, Japan must show some sort of action, especially regarding the sex slave issue, and when the summit is held, an outcome should be delivered. He said abnormal relations between the two countries, which have hit a low in recent months, should not continue, adding that he'll do all he can to better bilateral ties. Yu also highlighted the importance of security cooperation between the two amid continuous nuclear threats from North Korea. The ambassador also noted that next year should be a new starting point for Korea and Japan as they mark the 50th anniversary of diplomatic ties. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Time now for a look through the international headlines we're following on this Tuesday morning. For that, as always, we turn to our Eunice Kim standing by for us at the news centre. Good morning, Eunice.
Good morning to you, Mark. Congo's health minister says as many as 15 people may have died from the Ebola virus, and officials say it could be of a different strain from the epidemic wreaking havoc through West Africa. The region of focus is Jura, some 1,200 kilometers from the capital, where those 15 people are reported to have died. The health minister said 11 others were under isolation and 80 people being traced, as the area is said to be placed under quarantine. The minister said one of the cases had tested positive for the Sudanese strain of Ebola, while another had a mixture of the Sudanese and the Zaire strain. The Zaire strain is the strain of the virus found in West Africa currently. Meanwhile, a Liberian doctor who had received the experimental drug ZMapp has died late Sunday Tuesday, Dr. Abraham Borbor was the deputy chief medical doctor at Liberia's largest hospital. In Ukraine, President Petro Poroshenko has dissolved his parliament and called for snap elections on October 26th. He said many of the parliamentary members were allies of the militant separatists waging war in the country's east. He also said the majority of Ukrainians wanted a new parliament. This as Ukraine's military says Russia has sent soldiers and weapons across the border to open a new front, a charge Moscow has denied. The leaders of Ukraine and Russia are set to meet on this Tuesday in a round of rare talks in the Belarusian capital of Minsk amid a separatist war now in its fifth month that sees no end. The boy whose untimely death had sparked a racial uproar in Ferguson, Missouri, has finally been put to rest. The funeral of 18-year-old Michael Brown was held Monday at Friendly Temple Missionary Baptist Church in St. Louis. More than 4,500 mourners attended. Among them were the parents of Trayvon Martin, children of Martin Luther King celebrities, and several White House aides. In one of two eulogies given, Reverend Al Sharpton condemned those who committed violence in Michael's name and called for a movement to clean up police forces and the communities at large. Brown was shot and killed by a white police officer on August 9th despite being unarmed. His body had undergone 3 separate autopsies as part of ongoing state and national investigations. French President François Hollande has dissolved his cabinet following open disagreements over the country's stagnant economy. France has had virtually no economic growth this year, with an unemployment rate hovering around 10%. The economy minister had shot blunt criticism of the government policies, outweighing an already precarious balance. This is the second snap reshuffle the Hollande administration has seen in less than 5 months, reflecting the president's struggle to push a pro-business platform.
We start before the sun rises to bring you the latest stories out of Korea. We also lead the way with important global coverage. Stay on the pulse of what is happening with Daybreak.
Now, in some economic news, supported by government stimulus measures, domestic consumption here in Korea seems to be showing strong signs of rebounding. Our Kim Ji-yeon tells us how consumer confidence is steadily but surely recovering.
The economy is finally showing signs of regaining vitality after months of sluggish domestic consumption following April's ferry disaster. Over the past few days, stores saw sales of gift sets soaring ahead of next month's Chuseok holidays or the Korean Thanksgiving holidays. The country's 4 major retailers say gift purchases, including fish and other food products, jumped as much as 100% on year. Data by the Ministry of Strategy and Finance indicates an increase in private consumption in July. Real estate transactions increased more than 90% last month compared to the same period last year, while credit card transactions increased by more than 5%. The improvements came shortly after the government unveiled a string of stimulus measures, including steps to make it easier for home buyers to borrow money from banks. Experts expect consumer confidence to gradually keep improving in the latter half of this year, given that the central bank has made it clear it will seek easier monetary policy to help spur economic recovery. The Bank of Korea cut its base rate by 0.25 percentage point, ending a 15-month freeze earlier this month. But in order to greatly improve consumer confidence in the months to come, Im No-jung from Seoul-based IM Securities and Investment emphasized the need to improve the employment rate.
Deregulation in the service sector, such as medical and the legal sectors, would help increase the country's employment rate, which could then increase the amount of consumer power among households.
He adds the rate of increase of private consumption is expected to rise to the 2% range in the latter half of this year. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Now, Korea's largest auto group appears to be losing a fair bit of ground in the domestic market, which it once had such a stronghold on. According to the Korea Automobile Manufacturers Association, the combined market share of Hyundai Motor and its sister brand Kia Motors stood at 69.5% during the first half of the year. It's the first time in 7 years that the figure has fallen below 70%. This comes on the back of the increased presence of imported cars, which accounted for 12.4% of the Korea market in the first half. That's nearly a threefold increase compared to 2007. Now, one area where we can see consumption growth in Korea is in the very fiercely competitive retail market. Amid the cutthroat industry, department stores do everything they can to lure in the big fish, the big spenders. One strategy involves targeting a specific group of consumers with a bit of money in their pocket and designating an entire section just for them. Our Hwang Jie has this report.
From suits, shirts, and briefcases to shoes and golf accessories, this section of a mall has just about everything a man would want to buy at a department store. It's called an exclusive area for men.
In the past, I had to go from floor to floor looking for things, but here they have everything I need, so it's very convenient.
With a growing number of male customers taking their wallets to local department stores, marketing teams have decided to set aside a zone just for them. Sales from male shoppers has been rising steadily over recent years, with the figure jumping more than 30% each year since 2011. The exclusive sections have been a popular draw not just for men, but for other segments of the population as well. Long rows of dried pollocks attract mothers looking for dinner items. This corner in a liquor store is dedicated solely to Korean traditional drinks. Here, shoppers can find any and all kinds of local alcoholic beverages.
I am delighted to see all kinds of local drinks here, especially these days when Korean traditional drinks have lost some of their customers to foreign brands.
Sales managers explain that the move has helped them raise sales and drop prices as they're able to make direct deals with producers.
By operating a differentiated service, we provide not only something to see, but also cheaper prices. We are getting good reviews from customers.
Amid increased competition among department stores, they're encouraging customers to open up their wallets through this unique form of marketing. Hwang Jie, Arirang News.
And a good Tuesday morning to you all as we kick things off with the 2014 LPGA Canadian Pacific Women's Open, as Korean golfers dominated the event, finishing first, second, and third. Now, first off, 24-year-old Yoo So-yeon wins her first LPGA Tour title in 2 years as she finished first, shooting a 23 under par overall thanks to an amazing first-round performance. And celebrating the win with her was Chen Ah-yeon and Park In-bi, who finished second and third respectively, as the second-ranked Park In-bi barely misses out on getting her #1 world ranking back once again. And now moving over to domestic baseball, where the KBO held their 2015 rookie draft with 10 teams looking to bolster a team with young talents who will wear their uniforms next season. With 103 players being selected on Monday, the Hanwha Eagles, who finished dead last during the 2013 season, chose Kim Min-woo with their very first pick. The monster pitcher, who boasts a 150-km/h fastball, holds a 9-1 record with an ERA of 1.35 in 15 national tournament games and is expected to be pro-ready next season. Now, the draft is the second KBO draft that takes place each year. Well, speaking of the KBO, with the Hanwha Eagles and the Kia Tigers getting their Sunday's game rained out, they made up that game on Monday. So let's take a look at the highlights. And of course, going into the game, we go over to the first inning of the game. Bases loaded for Felix Pie. That's a double to right center field, two-man score, and it's 2-0 Hanwha. Next batter, Kim Tae-won singles to right, 2 more runners score, and the Hanwha Eagles take an early 4-0 lead. Fast forward to the 6th inning, Felix Pie, this time a 2-run shot to deep right field, and it's now 6-0. Meanwhile, Andrew Albers throwing a complete game shutout, giving up just 3 hits in the entire game, as the Hanwha Eagles cruise through 9-0, your final score. Now more baseball, this time over to the 2014 International Women's Baseball Tournament, where Korea faced off against Japan in the final. And with Japan striking early with a 10-run first inning, Korea just could not bounce back, losing the game 19-1. And now with that said, finishing things off in tennis, the 2014 U.S. Open kicked off in New York, and tennis fans are getting excited for the season's final Grand Slam. So let's take a look at some of the players to look forward to. Now, first off, over on the women's side, you can bet that Serena Williams will be the clear favorite, winning 5 U.S. Open titles, including the past 2 tournaments. But 5th seed Maria Sharapova and 2nd seed Simona Halep look to challenge her as the other 2 contenders. Meanwhile, over on the men's side, Roger Federer is looking pretty nice without Novak Djokovic nor Andy Murray in his half of the draw, as he looks to win his 6th U.S. Open title. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day, and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Good morning to you. I'm Lee Ji-hyun with your weather updates. Well, record-breaking rain yesterday dumped over 270 millimeters in Changwon and 240 millimeters in Busan, and parts of Jeollado province received up to 150 millimeters. Now, knowing that heavy rain warning is being issued when the rain falls more than 150 millimeters for 24 hours. So it really rained a lot for those regions in such a short period of time. And for today, as we can see, most of the rain clouds have to move away from the peninsula, but the lingering rain clouds are still dropping showers to eastern parts of the peninsula, and it's likely to rain throughout the day for people in the east. Also, passing showers are in store for some parts of the nation, including here in Seoul in the afternoon hours. But other than that, we can expect to see some sun, and temperatures are expected to rise a bit higher than yesterday. So let's take a closer look at those temperatures. The morning low here in Seoul is starting out at 22, but the high in the capital, Gwangju and Busan, will all make it to 28, while Daegu will rise to 29 this afternoon. Now let's see how other regions are looking. It looks like Jeju Island and Daejeon will top out at 28, and Dokdo should see highs of 22, while Mount Keungang gets up to 16 later in the day. Well, that's all for Korea, and here's international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, those are the stories we have for you at this hour. Korea Today is coming up in about 30 minutes' time. We'll be back throughout the day here on Arirang TV with many more updates, and I'll be back at 10 a.m. Korea time. Till then, goodbye.